They told you life is unpredictable, that things just happen, and you have to adapt. But what if that's the biggest lie you've ever believed? What if every situation, every person, every so-called random event in your life has been quietly following a blueprint you've been carrying inside you all along? This isn't about positive thinking or blind optimism. It's about understanding the mechanical truth Neville Goddard revealed. The outer world mirrors inner world with such precision that nothing in your reality is accidental. Your beliefs, assumptions, and dominant feelings aren't private. They're broadcast into the world, shaping what you experience every single day. And here's the twist. Trying to change your life without changing your inner state is like trying to fix your reflection by wiping the mirror. The real power isn't in chasing, forcing, or controlling the outer world. It's in becoming the conscious artist of your inner one. Once you do, the reflection has no choice but to follow. In this video, you'll see why your subconscious is the projector, how feeling is the secret, and exactly what to do to rewrite the image within, so reality has to respond. And once you see it, you'll never look at coincidences the same way again. Have you ever noticed how life seems to have this uncanny way of giving you back exactly what you're feeling inside? It's not a coincidence. It's as if every thought, every belief, every emotion is a brushstroke painting the scene around you. The outer reality is never random. It's shaped by your inner atmosphere. This is the principle that the outer world mirrors inner world. What you see out there is simply the consequence of what you carry within. Picture waking up on a cloudy day inside yourself. Nothing has actually happened yet, but there's a heaviness in the air. And somehow, everything seems to go wrong. Traffic gets worse, the coffee runs out, even people's expressions feel colder. This isn't bad luck. It's reality reflection, Neville in motion. Your inner vibration subtly organizes events so they match it. Your daily life becomes a perfect mirror of your internal state. What's fascinating is that when someone changes on the inside, their world changes too, even without big external actions. Not because life suddenly got better, but because the inner world creates outer. It's like changing the soundtrack of a movie. The same scenes suddenly carry an entirely different feeling. This is a subtle shift most people miss, but it's the one that transforms everything. This is the key Neville Goddard repeated so often. Nothing out there is separate from who you are inside. The law of assumption ensures that what you assume as real will eventually be seen. But understanding this is only the beginning. The real impact comes when you discover how this mirror works and why it never makes mistakes. Neville Goddard had a simple yet radical way of putting it. The outer world is a mirror, and it has no choice but to reflect the consciousness looking into it. Just like a physical mirror can't give you a different face than the one you're wearing, reality can't give you experiences that don't match your inner state. The reflection doesn't decide, it simply responds. Think about it. If you frown in front of a mirror, it won't wait a few seconds to smile back. It reacts instantly and perfectly to the image in front of it. The law of assumption works the same way. Whatever you accept as true inside, whether in your imagination, emotions, or deep-seated beliefs, will be mirrored back into your outer world. This is the essence of imagination creates reality. Neville used to say that the mirror of life doesn't argue, question, or edit your reflection. If you feed it fear, doubt, and scarcity, it will reflect situations, people, and events that match those feelings. If you feed it confidence, gratitude, and abundance, it has no choice but to produce matching experiences. It's not moral, it's mechanical, a perfect law. Once you grasp that the mirror isn't here to be convinced, but simply to reflect, your focus shifts. You stop pleading with reality to change and start working directly on the image you're presenting. And that's when the magic begins. But first, you need to understand why trying to change the mirror itself is a losing game. Trying to change your life by wrestling with outer circumstances is like standing in front of a mirror, unhappy with your reflection, and trying to fix it by wiping the glass. You can polish it all day long, but if your hair is messy or your shirt is wrinkled, the reflection will stubbornly keep showing it. That's the trap most people fall into. They fight the effect while ignoring the cause. Neville Goddard often emphasized that the outer world mirrors inner world so precisely that no amount of action in the outer can outmatch a deeply rooted inner assumption. If you feel unworthy inside, even the most generous opportunities will somehow slip through your fingers. The reflection will keep presenting situations that prove your internal story right. It's why people change jobs, cities, or relationships, only to find themselves facing the same old frustrations in a new setting. They've repainted the walls, but the projector, the subconscious Jung, is still running the same film. The reality reflection Neville talks about doesn't shift until the inner image does. That's why fixing outer problems rarely creates lasting change. When you realize that trying to fix the mirror is a dead end, you naturally start asking the right question. If the mirror can't change on its own, where is the real control point? And that's where we step into the role of the subconscious, the invisible projector that makes everything you see possible. Think of your subconscious mind as the film projector in an old cinema. The audience, your outer reality, only sees what's on the reel inside. If that reel is filled with images of struggle, lack, or rejection, those scenes will keep playing out on the screen of your life, no matter how much you wish for something else. The projector doesn't judge, it simply plays what it's been loaded with. Neville Goddard explained that the subconscious is deeply impressionable, and it accepts whatever you feel to be true. That's why feeling is the secret. The stronger and more consistent the feeling, the deeper it imprints on the subconscious, and the more faithfully it gets projected into the outer world. The inner world creates outer because the projector never stops running. Most people make the mistake of trying to change the movie by yelling at the screen. They argue with reality, complain, or hustle endlessly, hoping the scenes will shift. But until they swap the reel, by planting new assumptions, new emotional truths, and new images inside, the same storyline keeps looping. The subconscious doesn't care about trying, only about what's accepted as done. When you begin to see your life as a projection rather than a coincidence, the frustration starts to fade, because now you know if you don't like the film, you don't attack the screen, you change the reel. And that brings us to a sobering truth. When the reel holds unresolved emotions, those same scenes will replay again and again, no matter where you go. You can change your job, move to another city, or start a brand new relationship. But if your inner state hasn't shifted, the same frustrations will greet you like an old friend. This is the quiet power of the outer world mirror's inner world. Unresolved emotions and limiting beliefs act like invisible magnets, pulling in the same type of people, problems, and outcomes, no matter where you run. Neville Goddard often pointed out that the subconscious doesn't forget just because you've changed scenery. If deep down you still feel abandoned, betrayed, or unworthy, life will keep arranging scenes that match that feeling. It's reality reflection Neville in perfect form. Your inner script calls the shots, and the world responds with the same lines, just played by different actors. Think about it like software. If the program has a bug, it doesn't matter which computer you install it on, the same error shows up. The law of assumption works the same way. Unless you update the internal code, the outer experience stays in the same loop. This is why temporary fixes, like a vacation or a quick win, often fade so fast. The truth is, those negative states are not just moods, they are instructions, and as long as they're active, the subconscious will keep projecting them. That's why the real change starts with shifting the feeling itself, because feeling is the secret. Which brings us to the deeper question. If feeling is the cause, what exactly makes it so powerful? Neville Goddard's famous line, "Feeling is the secret," isn't just poetic, it's mechanical. The subconscious doesn't respond to wishful thinking or empty words. It responds to the emotional charge you carry. That's why you can repeat affirmations all day. But if the underlying feeling says, "This isn't true," the projection won't change. The inner world creates outer through the consistent emotional state you live in. Feelings are like the tuning fork of your life. Strike it with fear, and everything around you will vibrate at that frequency. Strike it with confidence or gratitude, and the outer world has no choice but to arrange itself in harmony. This is the law of assumption in motion. You live in the end internally, and the mirror eventually shows it. It's easy to confuse feeling with momentary emotion, but Neville meant something deeper. The state you return to over and over, the background mood that colors your days. A fleeting smile in the mirror won't change your reflection if you keep frowning the rest of the time. The reflection only locks in when the inner state becomes your new normal. When you truly understand that your feeling is the blueprint, you stop asking, "How can I make this happen?" and start asking, "What do I need to feel now to make this inevitable?" And from there, the next step is clear. Learning how to change the image within, so the reflection has no choice but to follow. Here's the practice Neville Goddard would insist on. Pick one recurring unwanted pattern in your life. Maybe it's always being overlooked, always struggling financially, or always ending up in the same type of relationship. That pattern is proof that the outer world mirrors inner world. The goal isn't to fight the reflection, but to replace the inner image that's causing it. Close your eyes and create a short scene that implies the opposite of what you've been living. If you felt ignored, imagine a moment where someone is genuinely celebrating you. If you felt broke, picture yourself opening a bank statement and smiling at the balance. Keep it simple. One scene, a few seconds, but live in the end as if it's already done. Then here's the secret ingredient. Rehearse that scene with the feeling it would naturally bring. Let your body relax into it. Let your breathing slow. Let the law of assumption take over, imprinting this new normal into your subconscious. The more vividly you feel it, the faster the imagination creates reality. You'll know the image is taking root when it stops feeling like a fantasy and starts feeling like just the way things are now. That's when the outer reflection begins to shift, often in ways that feel effortless. And when that happens, certain signs start appearing that the mirror is quietly rearranging itself to match you. One of the first signs the outer world mirror's inner world is beginning to shift is subtle. People start treating you differently without you asking for it. Maybe the same coworker who used to ignore you suddenly includes you in conversations, or opportunities begin to randomly appear, fitting perfectly with the new inner state you've been rehearsing. You might also notice that problems you've been wrestling with for months seem to dissolve on their own. This is reality reflection Neville at work. Once the inner image changes, the subconscious stops projecting the old pattern and life reconfigures itself accordingly. The change can be so natural that you forget how hard things used to feel. Another clue is a shift in how you respond to situations. The same trigger that once caused frustration or fear now meets calm, even amusement. That's a sign your feeling is the secret state has truly taken root. And because the law of assumption works mechanically, the outer world must adjust to match the new tone you're living in. But here's the tricky part. Even when the mirror starts reflecting the new image, you might still see flashes of the old one. This is where most people get discouraged, thinking the change isn't working. In truth, those leftover reflections are just momentum from the old state. And this is exactly why persistence is everything. When you plant a new seed, you don't expect the tree to appear overnight. In the same way, when you shift your inner state, the outer world mirrors inner world with a slight delay. Those lingering old reflections aren't proof that nothing's changing. They're just the remnants of your previous assumptions still playing themselves out. Neville Goddard compared this to turning a massive ship. Even after you steer in a new direction, the vessel keeps moving forward for a while before fully turning. If you panic at the sight of the old shoreline and start steering back, you undo your progress. The law of assumption demands persistence, staying in the new feeling until it becomes second nature. This is where many give up. They see a bill arrive, an argument happen, or an old pattern resurface, and they declare, "See, it's not working." But the truth is, feeling is the secret only works when you hold the new state regardless of appearances. The subconscious is like wet cement. It needs time to set in the shape you've given it. When you understand this, every old reflection becomes an opportunity to double down on your new state. You remind yourself, inner world creates outer. So if I persist here, the mirror will have no choice but to catch up. And once it does, you step into the most empowering phase of this work, becoming the conscious artist of your inner world. Once you truly grasp that the outer world mirrors inner world, you stop living like a passive spectator and start living like the artist behind the canvas. You no longer wait for good luck or fear bad breaks. You understand that your brush is your inner state, and every stroke shapes the scenery you'll eventually walk through. Neville Goddard's work was a constant reminder. You are never at the mercy of the reflection, only of the image you project. When you master the law of assumption and use imagination creates reality deliberately, life stops feeling like a gamble and starts feeling like a craft. You can choose the palette, the textures, even the mood. This doesn't mean control in the rigid sense, it means alignment. Instead of trying to micromanage every detail, you design the inner atmosphere and trust the subconscious projector to handle the rest. You live in the end, not in the anxious how. That's when feeling is the secret stops being theory and becomes a lived experience. From here, the possibilities are endless. Relationships shift, finances improve, opportunities appear, not because the world suddenly became kinder, but because you became a master of your own inner world. And once you reach this point, the mirror doesn't just reflect your life, it reflects your art. So now the question isn't if the outer world mirrors inner world, it's whether you're willing to take the reins of what's being reflected. Because every thought you nurture, every feeling you dwell in, every assumption you carry, is a silent command to your reality, and reality never disobeys. What would change if you stopped chasing the mirror and started shaping the image within? If you treated your inner state like the most valuable possession you have? The law of assumption and feeling is the secret, aren't abstract ideas. They're tools you can use starting today to direct your life instead of drifting through it. So I'll leave you with this. What story are you projecting right now, and is it one you want to keep living? The choice is yours, and the mirror is always ready to reflect a new you. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep learning how to master the inner world so the outer world can't help but follow. Your transformation starts the moment you decide to feel it real.